This week's episode of the Rambler Sports Locker, men's volleyball goes for a big-time comeback.
And one Loyola track star brings home an award. This week in Rambler Sports is coming at you right now.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Rambler Sports Locker. I'm Shelby Kluber.
And I'm Epiphany Jonikin. Loyola's men's basketball team took Northern Iowa to overtime last Saturday. In the first 8 minutes, the Rambler defense forced 6 turnovers, helping them to a 16-point lead, but the Panthers stuttered back to close the gap. In the last 3 seconds, A.J. Green nailed a 3-pointer, forcing overtime. The Ramblers started overtime with a strong bucket from Lucas Williamson, followed by a 3 from Keith Clemens. The buckets helped Loyola outscore Northern Iowa 11-2 in overtime to secure the 82-73 win. Following the win, Loyola took on Illinois State last night at home. RSL reporter Tim Edmonds was on the court afterwards to give us the story of the game.
The Loyola men's basketball team entered Wednesday night with a clear goal in mind: protect home court against rival Illinois State University and keep pace with league-leading University of Northern Iowa. Strugglers of late, the Redbirds sat at 3-11 in conference play entering the in-state matchup, but it was the Ramblers who got off to a slow start early, especially star center Cameron Crutley.
I thought the first couple possessions we got the ball in the middle, which is what we wanted, and then all of a sudden we were just staring at it, trying to get it and force it, and you can't force it, you got to get it side to side. And I thought our ball movement and getting the zone and shifting the zone was so much better in the second half than it was the first half.
Struggling from all over the field and from the free throw line, Loyola headed to the locker room trailing 38-34 in a game many expected them to run away with.
Honestly, I missed a lot of shots that I normally would make, but you got to stay with it and just stay confident and just know that the percentages will even out. And yeah, once one or two guys start making a couple, the other guys start to feel really, really good, and suddenly the ball starts to go in a little bit more. So just staying positive.
Despite the slow start, the Ramblers would eventually heat up from downtown early in the second half as redshirt junior Tate Hall buried 4 consecutive three-pointers.
Kind of got in a groove there, you know. My teammates kind of started to find me, kind of found the holes in the defense. So, yeah, I mean, it feels good to play well and just play well as a team. So.
Hall led an onslaught from deep by the Ramblers as he led all scorers with 28 points, and Loyola hit 10 three-pointers to coast past the Redbirds in the second half. With 4 double-digit scores in the second half alone, the Ramblers would outscore the Redbirds 50-31 over that stretch, and they completed the comeback to take home their 11th conference win of the season. And with tonight's 84-69 victory over Illinois State University, Loyola moves to within a half game of league leaders University of Northern Iowa. The Panthers season continues tomorrow when they take on Indiana State University in Cedar Falls, Iowa, and the Ramblers season continues this Saturday when they take on Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri. From Gentile Arena, Tim Edmonds, back to you guys at the desk.
The women's basketball team had a tough weekend, losing 2 road games and dropping to 15-9 overall in the season. A Valentine's Day matchup against Illinois State went into double overtime, where the Ramblers just barely lost 86-85. The teams remained relatively even for most of the game, with Loyola's Tiara Wallace scoring 22 points. But a pair of last-second free throws nudged Illinois State over the edge. Then, 2 days later at Bradley, the Ramblers were held to just 32% shooting. Despite double-digit numbers from Abby O'Connor and Sam Gallinopoulos, the night ended in a 71-50 loss. The girls will return to Loyola for the start of a 3-game homestand, starting with a game against Valparaiso on Saturday.
Last weekend, Eric Burns took home the long jump title at the Grand Valley State Big Meet. With a leap of 25 feet and 2.75 inches, Burns set a personal best and a meet record. He was named Missouri Valley Conference Men's Field Athlete of the Week. The men's team also put in a good effort in the distance medley relay. Redshirt senior Kevin White, senior Derek Rink, and freshman Ayub El Amashwi and Patrick Leonard came in at 9 minutes, 59.79 seconds. The team shaved over 5 seconds off their previous time, good enough for best in the MVC. Loyola will next compete at the Alex Wilson Invitational in South Bend, Indiana on Saturday, February 22nd. It will serve as the team's last outing before the Missouri Valley Conference indoor track field competition.
The men's volleyball team snapped a 3-game losing streak last Thursday. The team defeated Quincy 3-1 in their first road win of the season. The effort was led by Jake Maffitt's career-high night. The freshman had 9 kills and 5 digs, helping Loyola bring their record to 4-8 on the year. But the excitement was quickly lost when the guys fell in another road game in Missouri just 2 days later. Loyola came back from a 2-game deficit against Lindenwood, led by Kyle Pekarski's 14 kills and Devin Jocelyn's 10 digs, but lost the 5th set 15-9 and the match. The team's next game will be at Gentile on Friday night, where they'll take on Ohio State.
The softball team started the Bearcat Classic Tournament in Huntsville, Texas Friday. Loyola split its doubleheader on the opening day, beating George Mason 1-0 and losing to Houston Baptist 9-2. Then the Ramblers swept Saturday, beating George Mason again 12-0 and Sam Houston State 8-6. It was a particularly great weekend for Madison Ebling, who reached home plate 4 times against George Mason on Saturday, the highest on the team thus far. The Ramblers continued their win streak on Sunday with another victory against Sam Houston State. The team finished the tournament with a 4-1 record to improve 7-3 for the season. The Ramblers will hit the road soon for a series of games in Orlando, Florida, February 28th through March 1st.
Welcome to Roses and Thorns with Omari Salisbury. I'm Omari Salisbury. Last weekend, this year's annual NBA All-Star Weekend took place in Chicago, and it was one to remember with the best of the best in the NBA going head-to-head. I'd like to give out my first rose to the Rising Star game on Friday with Team World versus Team USA. Every young player showed out that game, with Zion even bending the rim. It was also dope to see Zion and Ja Morant play together for the first time since their AAU days. We also saw many dunk contests at the end of the game, giving us a little sneak peek of what's to come in the future. Sadly, I'll have to give a thorn to this year's dunk contest. This year's dunk contest was one to remember, with Orlando's Magic Aaron Gordon having 6 perfect scored dunks in a row and dunking over 7-6 Taco Fall to only lose to Miami Heat's Derrick Jones Jr. by 1 point. The results led to Aaron Gordon saying he's done with the dunk contest. Fans were also outraged because they believed he should have won. I agree, because it's not every day that you see someone jump over someone who is 7'6". Like, that's crazy. My final rose will be given out to the All-Star game where everyone's favorites All-Stars finally went to head-to-head with Team Giannis versus Team LeBron. A new format was introduced this year, and it worked out perfectly, which led to a fourth quarter where there was no game clock and the All-Stars got to play ball to the final score of 157. Without the game clock, the All-Stars were able to play less conservative than usual, making for a way more intense game. We also got to see what could have been if Kawhi would have gone to the Lakers this offseason, and let me tell you, it would have been dangerous for the rest of the league. The game ended with Team LeBron having a narrow victory over Team Giannis with a score of 157-155, with Kawhi Leonard being the first winner of the new All-Star Game Kobe Bryant MVP Award, which was renamed this year after Kobe Bryant's untimely passing. That's all for this edition of Roses and Thorns. I'm Omari Salisbury. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Omari. Although I have to say, you and I were both in Chicago for All-Star Weekend, and we didn't get a rose shout-out.
Yeah, like, why did he overlook us? It's okay, we can buy each other roses.
Exactly.
For our full episodes and the chance to get in on the conversation, follow and like our social media handles for an up-to-date look at all things Rambler Sports. Check back next week for another episode of RSL. I'm Epiphany Jonikin.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Shelby Kluver. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.